He walked into the most luxurious hotel in the city, wearing old clothes. The staff laughed and denied him service. But by the next morning, everything changed. Why? Because he owned the place. What they didn't know would shock everyone. Before we dive in, I'm curious. Tell me in the comments, which country are you watching from? And if you enjoy these unbelievable stories, don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more amazing content. The city's skyline gleamed under the morning sun, each tower reflecting luxury, wealth, and status. Among these shimmering edifices stood the crown jewel of opulence, the Grand Celeste Hotel. Its golden doors, marble floors, and crystal chandeliers screamed wealth, exclusivity, and power. And yet, this morning, one man was about to challenge the illusion of prestige, without anyone realizing just how powerful he really was. Malik Johnson walked toward the hotel, his worn shoes tapping softly on the marble pavement. His clothes were simple, slightly faded jeans, a plain t-shirt, and a weathered jacket, but his posture carried quiet confidence. He carried only a small leather bag, the kind travelers use when they want to go unnoticed. Yet the most important thing about him wasn't visible at first glance. Malik was wealthy beyond imagination. He had spent years building a business empire, investing in real estate, and quietly acquiring assets, one of which was this very hotel. As Malik reached the massive revolving doors, a bellboy with perfectly styled hair and a crisp uniform barely hid his smirk. "Good morning, sir. Can I help you?" the boy asked, his tone polite but skeptical. Malik smiled politely. "Yes, I have a reservation. Malik Johnson." The bellboy glanced at his screen and frowned. "Sir, I'm not seeing any reservation under that name." Malik leaned closer. "It's under Johnson. I called yesterday. Confirmation number 8742. You should have it." The bellboy's smirk turned into a laugh. "Sir, this hotel isn't for, well, you know, only paying guests are allowed. And this doesn't look like the type of guest we usually host." Malik's jaw tightened slightly, but his voice remained calm. "I'd like to speak with the manager, please. I have a reservation and expect to be treated fairly." The receptionist, a woman in her late 20s with perfectly styled hair and a sharp uniform, overheard the exchange. She raised an eyebrow, glanced at Malik from head to toe, and whispered to the bellboy, "Looks like another one of those street types trying to sneak in." Malik's jaw tightened slightly, but his voice remained calm. "I'd like to speak with the manager, please. I have a reservation and expect to be treated fairly." The receptionist's lips curved into a mocking smile. "The manager? Sure, but you might want to wait outside for a few minutes. He's, busy." By now, a few guests had started watching the interaction. A wealthy-looking couple whispered to each other, glancing at Malik and pointing discreetly. "Who does he think he is?" one murmured. Malik's eyes scanned the lobby carefully. He noticed the subtle disgust, the judgment, the barely hidden amusement at his presence. Every glance, every smirk, every whispered comment was fuel to his fire. He didn't flinch. He was used to the world underestimating him. Finally, a tall man in a crisp black suit, clearly the manager, approached. His face was a mask of superiority. "Sir, is there a problem?" "Yes," he replied evenly. "I have a reservation here, and I'd like to check in." The manager laughed lightly, loud enough for others to hear. "Mr. Johnson, I don't know where you got the idea that this hotel accommodates, well, you know. Only paying guests are allowed, and this doesn't look like the type of guest we usually host."
Gasps rippled through the lobby. A few guests looked uncomfortable, Others whispered excitedly, as if watching a scene unfold in a movie. Malik took a slow, measured breath. "I see," he said quietly. "You won't let me check in, despite my reservation?" "That's correct," the manager said, puffing out his chest. "We have standards here. This isn't a place for, well, whatever it is you are trying to pass off as a guest." Malik's eyes, calm and focused, scanned the faces around him, the staff, the guests, the whispering onlookers. In that moment, he could almost feel the entire lobby underestimating him, believing they were looking at nothing more than a simple man in shabby clothes. He straightened his jacket, lifted his chin, and said softly but clearly, "Very well. I will leave. For now." He turned, walking slowly toward the exit, each step deliberate, controlled, and full of dignity. The bellboys snickered, the receptionist shook her head, muttering under her breath, and the manager returned to his desk, clearly proud of himself. But Malik wasn't angry. He never let anger control him. Inside, a small, satisfied smile crept across his face. Today was just the beginning. Today, he would remember every face, every smirk, every word spoken to him. And one day, the world, or at least this hotel, would see him for who he really was. As he exited the lobby, he glanced back one last time. He whispered under his breath, "Remember this. People always show you who they really are, especially when they think you're powerless." Outside, the morning sun hit his face. Malik adjusted his bag over his shoulder and walked down the marble steps, disappearing into the bustling city streets. He didn't rush, he didn't panic, because he knew something the staff of the Grand Celeste didn't. He was about to turn their world upside down. And in that moment, the story of humiliation, arrogance, and underestimation had only just begun.
Years before the Grand Celeste Hotel incident, Malik Johnson's life looked nothing like it does now. Born in a small, struggling neighborhood, he grew up in a modest home with peeling paint, creaky floors, and a single worn-out computer that he shared with his younger sister. His parents worked tirelessly, his mother as a nurse and his father as a delivery driver, but money was always tight, and opportunities were rare. Even as a child, Malik had something that set him apart, a mind that refused to settle for the ordinary. He spent hours tinkering with broken electronics, learning to code on the outdated computer, and reading anything he could get his hands on. While other kids played outside, Malik was building ideas, imagining a future where he could change his own destiny. School wasn't easy. Teachers often overlooked him, classmates teased him for his old clothes and different ideas, and the world seemed to constantly remind him of his limitations. But Malik didn't let it break him. Each insult, each judgment became fuel. He remembered his father's words, "Son, it doesn't matter where you start, it matters where you're going." By his late teens, Malik began his first small ventures. He sold homemade electronics and gadgets, often trading them for services or small cash. He started learning the art of negotiation, understanding people, and reading situations. Every failure, every no he received was a lesson, a stepping stone. College brought new challenges. Malik didn't have the luxury of attending an elite university. He worked odd jobs during the day and studied programming, finance, and entrepreneurship at night. While wealthier students flaunted expensive gadgets and clothes, Malik quietly saved, invested in tiny opportunities, and honed his skills. People underestimated him constantly, professors, peers, and even strangers. But Malik learned to hide his potential beneath modesty. After college, Malik entered the business world, starting small but thinking big. He launched tech startups, real estate ventures, and small service businesses. Early successes brought modest returns, but setbacks were frequent. Investors doubted him, partners left, and competition was fierce. Yet Malik thrived on challenges. Where others saw obstacles, He saw possibilities. He also learned a critical lesson about people. You can often judge a person by how they treat those they think are beneath them. Malik realized that arrogance and prejudice reveal character, and humility often hides greatness. It's why, years later, he chose to wear simple clothes and walk into the Grand Celeste unrecognized. He wanted to see who respected him for who he was, not for what he owned. By his early 30s, Malik's quiet diligence had turned into immense success. He owned multiple companies, luxury properties, and significant shares in major businesses, including hospitality chains. Yet he never flaunted his wealth. Most people in his neighborhood or even in the city would walk past him without a second glance, seeing only a modest man with simple clothes. The Grand Celeste Hotel itself had been on his radar for years. While the staff and guests assumed it represented ultimate power and wealth, Malik saw it as an opportunity, an investment, a stage, and eventually a lesson. Months earlier, under a different company name, he had quietly acquired a majority stake in the hotel. To the world, he remained invisible, humble, and underestimated. Now, standing outside the hotel after being humiliated, Malik's mind wasn't clouded by anger. Instead, it was calm, calculating, and focused. Every insult he'd endured, every smirk directed at him, would soon come full circle. He didn't need to shout, argue, or fight. The system itself, the very world that doubted him, would deliver his victory. He took a deep breath, feeling the morning air brush against his face. In that moment, Malik was more than a man denied entry. He was a man with a plan, a man who had turned rejection into opportunity, and a man ready to reveal a truth that no one could ignore. Never underestimate anyone, especially those who seem powerless. And with that, Malik walked away from the hotel, his steps slow but purposeful, knowing that by the next morning, the entire world, especially the people who laughed at him, would see just how wrong they were.
The sun rose over the city, casting a golden glow on the streets and buildings, but nothing shone brighter than the Grand Celeste Hotel that morning. Inside, the staff arrived for their usual early shift, expecting a normal day of luxury guests, room service, and polite smiles. They had no idea that the very man they had humiliated yesterday was about to flip their world upside down. The receptionist arrived first, adjusting her perfectly pressed uniform, and immediately noticed a pile of unopened envelopes on her desk. One envelope was larger than the others, with a crisp letterhead she didn't recognize. Curiosity, tinged with anxiety, made her open it. Her eyes widened as she read the words aloud, almost in disbelief. Effective immediately, Malik Johnson, acting through Meridian Holdings, is now the majority owner of the Grand Celeste Hotel. All management and staff are to report to him for directives and operations. The receptionist's hands trembled. She glanced toward the lobby, where the bellboy had just arrived. You're kidding, right?" she stammered. The bellboy shook his head, staring at the letter. "No, this says he owns it. He owns the hotel." Within minutes, whispers spread like wildfire. The manager, a man who had yesterday laughed in Malik's face, stormed into the lobby. He held the letter in his hands, his usually confident posture now rigid and tense. "What is this?" he demanded. How can this be?" Just as he spoke, the front doors swung open. Malik Johnson walked in, not in the faded jeans and jacket from yesterday, but in a tailored suit, his presence commanding attention. Guests paused mid-step, hotel staff froze, and a few whispered among themselves. The man they had mocked, laughed at, and denied was now walking through their lobby as the owner of the place. The manager's face drained of color. "Mr. Johnson, you're the owner?" he stammered. Malik smiled calmly, his eyes scanning the room, taking in the reactions. "Good morning," he said smoothly. "I see everything is running as usual." The bellboy shifted nervously. The receptionist avoided eye contact, and the wealthy couple from yesterday's lobby stared, mouths slightly open. It was as if the universe had paused, letting Malik's victory play out in real time. Malik approached the manager, his voice calm but authoritative. "It seems yesterday there was a misunderstanding. I came here to check in, and instead I was denied service. Today, I'm here to ensure the hotel is managed properly, and to remind everyone that appearances can be deceiving." The guests, sensing the tension, quietly pulled out their phones. A few started recording, murmuring, "This is unbelievable." Malik continued, now addressing the entire staff. "Respect is earned, not through clothing, status, or first impressions, but how we treat others. Every one of you will remember this lesson." Some staff members tried to explain themselves, stammering apologies. The receptionist muttered, I didn't know." Malik nodded, acknowledging their words, but his calm gaze reminded them that the balance of power had shifted completely. The hotel, the symbol of their pride and authority, now belonged to the man they had ridiculed. He walked through the lobby with deliberate steps, each one echoing in the stunned silence. Guests whispered among themselves, "That's him, the man from yesterday." Malik paused at the front desk, letting the gravity of the moment sink in. "Starting today, I expect excellence, respect, and fairness in this hotel. Anyone unwilling to abide by these principles will find themselves replaced." The camera of a bystander caught a perfect shot. The formerly arrogant staff, frozen and pale, standing in awe of the man they underestimated. The lobby had transformed from a place of judgment to a stage where Malik's victory and lesson was now crystal clear. Malik walked toward the elevators. He glanced back one last time. The manager gulped, the bellboy shuffled nervously, and even the receptionist avoided his piercing gaze. Malik's silence spoke volumes. The man they laughed at yesterday now held absolute authority. Outside the Grand Celeste, the city continued its morning rush, unaware of the storm of realization unfolding inside. But for Malik, this was just the beginning. He wasn't here to gloat. He was here to teach a lesson that would ripple far beyond the hotel's gilded walls. And in that moment, every person in the lobby, every guest watching, and every staff member would never forget the day they laughed at Malik Johnson and lost everything they assumed was permanent.
The lobby of the Grand Celeste was a whirlwind of whispered conversations, wide eyes, and nervous shuffling. Malik Johnson, calm and collected in his tailored suit, stood near the reception desk as the manager approached, his usually confident demeanor now replaced by unease. "Mr. Johnson, we didn't know," the manager stammered, holding the ownership documents like a lifeline. "We didn't realize. Yesterday." Malik's eyes met his. They were steady, unwavering, but beneath that calm was a quiet power that filled the entire room. "Yesterday, you laughed at me," he said softly, but every word carried weight. "You mocked my appearance, my clothes, my presence. You denied me service in front of guests because you assumed I didn't belong here." The receptionist shrank slightly under Malik's gaze, the bellboy fidgeted, and a few staff members tried to hide behind the counter. Guests whispered excitedly, some filming the confrontation, sensing they were witnessing history. Malik continued, addressing the entire staff. "Do you understand the lesson here? Respect is not earned by your uniform, your job title, or your environment.
Respect is earned by how you treat others, every single person, regardless of what they look like or what you think they can offer you. The manager swallowed hard. I see that now, sir. I apologize. We acted foolishly. Malik's eyes nodded slightly. Your apologies are noted, but the lesson goes deeper than words. You need to understand that appearances are deceiving. Yesterday, you saw only what you wanted to see. You underestimated me. Today, you realize how wrong that assumption was. The receptionist's voice trembled as she added, I didn't know. I'm sorry for mocking you. Malik's eyes softened just a little, showing that his intention was not to humiliate, but to teach and uplift. Acknowledgement is the first step. Change is the next. From this moment on, treat everyone with fairness, dignity, and respect. Those who fail to do so will no longer have a place here. The bellboy, still trembling, muttered under his breath, I shouldn't have laughed. Exactly, he replied. It's a small moment that defines a lifetime. Never forget how quickly the tables can turn when you judge someone without understanding their worth. Guests in the lobby, some still recording, exchanged amazed glances. The couple from yesterday whispered to each other, awestruck, This is incredible. The man from yesterday? He owns it all. Malik paused, letting the weight of his presence settle over the room. Then, with a calm but decisive nod, he walked toward the elevators. Each step echoed authority, yet carried no malice, only the undeniable truth that he had emerged victorious, not through anger, but through patience, intelligence, and perseverance. As the staff watched him disappear from view, a hush fell over the lobby. The manager looked around, finally understanding the magnitude of the lesson he had just received. Respect, humility, and fairness had triumphed over arrogance, prejudice, and judgment. And for Malik, this was just the beginning of his quiet revolution within the hotel and in the hearts of those who had once doubted him.
The Grand Celeste Hotel had never been so quiet or so tense. Malik Johnson, now fully recognized as the majority owner, stood at the center of the lobby, surveying the staff and guests with calm authority. What had started as a moment of humiliation for him the day before had transformed into a powerful lesson for everyone who doubted him. He began speaking, his voice clear and commanding. Starting today, this hotel will operate under new principles. Principles of respect, fairness, and dignity for everyone who walks through these doors. Wealth, status, or appearance will no longer determine how you treat a person. Every guest, every employee, and every visitor deserves to be treated with respect. The manager, still pale from the shock of yesterday, nodded repeatedly. Understood, sir. We will follow your directives. Malik turned to the staff more broadly. Some of you will be given new responsibilities. Some will undergo training, and some may find their positions changed. But this is not punishment. This is growth. Learn from this moment. Never underestimate anyone, because you never know whose footsteps might one day echo through the halls of power. Guests murmured among themselves, some whispering in awe. A few were filming the scene, sensing they were witnessing an extraordinary story of triumph, patience, and justice. Malik then paused, a small smile crossing his face. And to those who wronged me yesterday, let this be a lesson. Arrogance and prejudice may give you a momentary sense of power, but patience, intelligence, and persistence will always reveal the truth in the end. He walked slowly toward the front doors, each step deliberate. Outside, the city buzzed with its usual energy, oblivious to the life-changing lesson that had unfolded inside the Grand Celeste. But inside,
The hotel staff would never forget this day. They had learned that appearances can deceive, and the person they once dismissed as insignificant was now the one in command. Malik exited the hotel, his presence calm yet magnetic. As he disappeared into the morning light, his story was already beginning to spread. Social media posts, live videos, and news reports described the astonishing turn of events. The humble man who owned the hotel he was denied from. It became a viral sensation, inspiring millions to rethink judgment, humility, and respect. For Malik, however, it wasn't about fame. It was about teaching a lesson, proving a point, and reminding the world that true power comes from patience, intelligence, and character, not appearances. And to you, watching this story unfold, remember, never judge someone by their clothes, car, or the way they look. The person you overlook today might be the one changing the world tomorrow. If this story inspired you, drop a comment below telling us which part shocked you the most. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss more unbelievable stories that teach powerful life lessons. Because stories like Malik's remind us life can turn on a single moment, and respect, patience, and integrity always win in the end.